Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License Flight Number 9 with service to William McKinley High School in Lima, Ohio. We ask that you please fasten your headphones at this time, secure your podcasting device, and remember that our in-flight beverage service, we will only be serving red slushies thrown directly in your face while singing a cappella backbeats.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Jeff Kurbis, and I'm joined by Max Singer and Rich Inman. How are you boys doing today?
Oh, excellent. I'm so ready for our first ever musical episode where we're going to sing the entire time.
Yeah, Jeff, can I get a middle C, please?
I think it was close. But Max, for
close
those who are...
what?
For those who are first-time guests or maybe new to the podcast, can you tell us a little bit what this podcast is really about?
So thanks for flying with TV Pilot's License today, gang. We are a podcast that analyzes strictly the pilot episodes of famous and infamous TV shows from throughout the years. We break them down, figuring out what works, what we're liking, if these shows can be made today, and if we're interested in continuing to watch them.
Rich, Max, I'm super excited to have you two joining me as my co-pilots, but we're talking about Glee today. We're talking about music, and while having a trio in music is nice, I'm a big fan of a solid quartet, and I think we need to make this podcast into that quartet. Our guest pilot today is one of many hats. She is a writer, actor, and podcaster, as well as, most notably, a former high school choir singer. She is currently a writer for iCarly, which you can find on Paramount Plus, and guest starring as Janae on the new Hulu show Reboot. Please make sure to press your call buttons and welcome Korama Danquah to the podcast. Yay, Korama!
Hey. The rumors are true. I am an alto.
I was just about to ask Korama, as a former choir singer myself, I always like to know what the hype was, what position you sat.
I feel like you were a baritone or a baritenor.
You are correct. I also sometimes in dire straits was a tenor, but we'll not talk about those times.
Okay, so am I the only one that didn't do anything singing related in high school?
Yeah, get out.
I didn't write this on the intro thing, but I also did college a cappella. So, I'm just scummy all around.
Wait, what was the name of your college a cappella group?
We need to know.
Important question.
So I was in a Jewish a cappella group, which makes this all the better because they have the best pun names. And our group is called the Aleph Beats. For the Hebrew school dropouts, the first two letters of the Hebrew alphabet are Aleph and Bet. So, Aleph Bet, Aleph Beat.
Love it. Absolutely.
No bar mitzvah day for you. Hebrew school dropout.
Hebrew school dropout.
We're talking about Glee today. You requested this show. So before we get to Rich's question of the week, I'd love to hear what your relationship is like with Glee.
I first watched Glee when the pilot first aired in May of 2009. I was still in high school. I was a senior in high school. So I was a wee lass of 18 years old. But I remember watching it and then going to my voice teacher and talking to her about it during my precious voice lesson time. And I was like, this is the best TV show I've ever seen. And I was just really excited to feel like I was being represented on TV and all of my dumb choir kid weirdness. So it's always held a space in my heart for that.
Well, Rich, you talked about how you weren't involved in choir or anything like that. Does that have something to do with maybe your question of the week?
It does. I'm curious to hear everyone's answer to this, but my question for everyone this week is, what is the dorkiest club, meeting, or event you had to go to in high school? Oh, Korama has an immediate answer.
No, the problem is I can't answer. They were all bad. I think this was cool, which means it probably wasn't. But my high school had a mockapella group.
Hold on. What is mockapella?
It's a cappella without the alcohol.
It is. I just got that one.
God damn it.
It's a cappella, but you do only parody songs. So we had a mock cappella group. It was seniors only, and you had to audition to get in. And the rule was you couldn't be in any of the school's a cappella groups, because we had two a cappella groups. And you couldn't be in the a cappella groups and also be in the Macapella group, because they were like, it's for the most interesting voices in the school, which people read as bad because it was mostly bad singers. But you could be in choir and still be in the Macapella group. So I had that little loophole where it didn't matter if I was a good singer. I wasn't good enough to get into the a cappella groups, but I was good enough to get into the Macapella group, which was called the Soggy Cheerios.
Oh no. Oh no.
That was my cool activity that I did my senior year of high school.
I was also in a very cool music group in my high school days. I sang in madrigal choir.
What does that mean?
Madrigal choir is basically like a Renaissance songs choir. So you're doing a lot of like 14th and 15th century
man.
What's the word I'm looking for? Like non-religious.
It's a lot of songs
secular.
about the plague.
Yeah.
So, like secular tunes about like drinking wassail and things like that. The woman at our high school who ran our choir and ran madrigal choir also directed all of the musicals. And there was kind of this expectation that if you wanted to get any sort of supporting role or lead in the musicals, you were going to do Mads. So that's what we called it. We called it Mads because we were hip like that. And you have her walk up to you in the hallway and you're like, if I have to sing Wassail one more fucking time, she's like, there's some pretty good parts in the musical for next year. You're doing madrigals, right? Just absolutely getting blackmailed into singing the dorkiest stuff imaginable.
Holy shit.
So,
amazing.
Go ahead, Rich.
No. I'm super excited to hear your answer, Jeff.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
Rich is like, I played baseball.
I had athletic ability and hand-eye coordination.
So I also did sports in high school, but I did the nerdiest sport, which was rowing. Which basically they took all of the kids who didn't have hand-eye coordination and were like, let's put them in a boat and see if they drown. But as far as a club, not only did we have choir, we had honors choir, y'all. And so I had to try out for honors choir. I got in because someone had too many academic priorities. So I did not originally make the cut, but joke's on all of them because I had the privilege of doing the solo we did our school was slightly progressive and we had a Pride Day, right? Which was awesome. Very cool. 2008, what a year.
Wow.
But at the same time, I got chosen to sing the solo for that event and it was True Colors, lovely song. But at the end, if we all remember, you say like a rainbow at the end. And it was also 2008. So all of my male peers, when I just a cappella sang that, not as pleased as I was to get that solo. So, maybe that's a great transition into Glee as a whole. But
I feel like if you had too many academic commitments to take on honors choir, you definitely have a legal prescription for Xanax now.
All right, Rich. You're so cool. What is your geeky thing?
I have probably the lamest answer of all of these because it wasn't even like an exciting outcome to this. There was no music being made. I joined a club in high school where it was about like it was supposed to be like environmental or like renewable resources for the school, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna get solar panels installed for the school pool so we don't have to like use we don't have to spend money on the energy to heat the pool anymore. Not only did we not do that, we spent the entire time only learning how to fill out a grant application for a total of 4 straight months, and then set it up so we would never even have the solar panels while I actually went to school there. And we wouldn't actually have any important like deductions and energy costs until actually it still wouldn't be in effect right now. It would have been like 2025.
Let's give a quick synopsis of the show as a whole. A group of ambitious and talented kids find strength, acceptance, and ultimately their voices in this uplifting musical comedy. Max, once again, we're 2 for 2 on shows tracking with their synopsis, but I'd love to hear.
Yeah, this is an accurate one.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about how Glee got made.
Absolutely. So today we are talking about Glee, the pilot so nice they aired it twice. Originally an air date of May 19th, 2009, and again on September 2nd, 2009, with an extended director's cut.
What?
Release the Murphy cut.
Yeah, so I hate this thing that shows do, and they do it a lot more now, especially where they air a pilot and they give you 4 months to just completely forget about it before airing more episodes. At least Glee had the courtesy to not only re-air its pilot, but air more of it before they got into the rest of season 1. But for the purposes of this section today, we're going to be talking about 3 important people: Ryan Murphy, Brad Falchuk, and Ian Brennan. And we're going to start off with Ryan Murphy, the pride of Indiana University, the alma mater of myself, Rich, and Jeff. Sorry, Korama.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
So Murphy grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. He was a journalism major at Indiana University in scenic Bloomington, Indiana, and a member of the Singing Hoosier show choir there, an organization that the 3 of us have many friends who were a part of in their college years. Afterwards, Murphy did something that not any of us did, which is he used his degree and became a journalist, working for organizations like the New York Times and the LA Times, while also pursuing screenwriting. In the late 90s, he sold his first script, a rom-com called Why Can't I Be Audrey Hepburn, to a little director named Steven Spielberg. You know, as you do when you just sell your first screenplay to fucking Spielberg.
Jesus Christ.
That film was never made, but it got Murphy the attention to co-create the teen comedy series Popular, which ran over on the WB network for 2 seasons. From there, he goes on to create Nip Tuck for FX, which runs from 2003 to 2010. He gets his first Emmy nominations in there. Murphy also writes and directs the feature film adaptation of the Augustin Burroughs memoir, Running with Scissors, in 2006, and is now having an estimated net worth of approximately $1 bajillion through his contracts with FX and Netflix.
I didn't know they calculated it out, and finally they finally counted all those dollars and came up with a
so many commas in Ryan Murphy's deals now. So the original script itself was written by an actor and screenwriter named Ian Brennan back in 2005. He conceived this actually as a feature film based on his experiences in show choir in the suburbs of Illinois. Brennan and his friend Mike Novick happen to have a little connection through Novick's gym. He happens to work out with Ryan Murphy. So Novick agrees to give Ryan Murphy a copy of Brennan's script, and for maybe the only time in history, it is read. Murphy then reconceives and retools the entire show with one of his Nip Tuck writers, Brad Falchuk, and they overhaul it into an actual series from the feature that Brennan wrote. It gets pitched to Fox and allegedly was greenlit by Fox 15 hours after the script was received. That's the number I found. The story goes at 15 hours from receiving.
I would have done it faster.
Yeah, that's why you're the best, Korama. That's why you're the best in the biz.
Put Korama in the executive board, you cowards.
So 15 hours later, Murphy and Falchuk become the executive producers and showrunners. Brennan comes on a co-executive producer, and Novick, the guy from the gym, a producer. That main trio of Brennan, Murphy, and Falchuk are actually the only writers for the show's first 2 seasons. An incredible fact, considering these are like 20-something episode seasons. And that takes us to our episode.
You guys ready to jump in?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
So,
Places, please.
Thank you, Places.
Thank you, Five.
Thank you, Places.
So we start off sort of in this interesting way of just like being introduced to the Cheerios, which at first seems like a odd choice, especially given all the marketing that the show had of it being very music centric. And then we are also introduced to one of my favorites. We get to see Sue Sylvester, played by Jane Lynch, who absolutely just destroys it with her first line of seeing this beautiful choreography, and then she says it was garbage and rubbish and terrible. I do have to think that Sue Sylvester was the inspiration for then Netflix's Cheer, because that coach was also a nightmare of a human being. I'm sure she's very nice, but she should not be coaching children.
Did Glee invent cheerleading?
Bring it
Out
on,
of the gates,
invented
my
cheerleading.
first thoughts are this.
Gabrielle Union invented cheerleading. Let's be very, very clear.
Yes.
After this beautiful choreography, we sort of get started to meet the characters through the eyes of Will Shu. Mr. Shu, as all the students call him, seems to be a middle-aged. He's in his 30s, probably, most likely. Spanish teacher who is not Spanish, which I always find interesting. And then
It's very Ohio.
talking about cultural appropriation, this is the first instance that we're going to see something problematic in the show.
But not the last.
Not even in this pilot.
Stay tuned.
No.
I mean, Jane Lynch has already made a waterboating joke at this point. I think we're past problematic references.
The very first line of the entire show is,
I know.
"You think that's hard? Try being waterboarded. That's hard."
As we go through, though, we see Finn. Finn is then picking on Kurt, and they're throwing him into a dumpster, all of that stuff. And then we follow Mr. Shu, and we sort of get the idea that maybe Glee was something that was important to him. He's looking at a trophy case. There's a 1993 regional champs, or was it regionals or national champions trophy that was in there?
I believe it was nationals.
Oh, see, that's even more impressive. More of the glory days. And on
Get you one of these. Get you one of these.
On the trophy, there's also a in memoriam for the previous Glee director, and it says, by its very definition, Glee is about opening yourself up to joy. I could only think of the Community line from the Community episode of Glee where they were like, Glee literally means glee. And that's all that was in my head for the entire scene. I just was cracking up.
I love a pilot that just puts its entire thesis like right in center screen for you zoomed in.
There's such a juxtaposition of like Jane Lynch's waterboarding comment, and then it's just like, oh, but like, doesn't this bring joy and like the reminiscing of high school at all? Like, did you guys feel that at all while watching at least the first couple minutes of the show?
I mean, for me, no, because it seems like there's only like maybe 13 kids that go to this entire high school, and they keep running through. I don't know. It just seems like it's a very light number of people.
We do get to see the current Glee director, played by Stephen Tobolowsky, who I'm absolutely
iconic character actor.
Everything that comes out of his mouth is solid gold.
We find out that he's sort of a perv. As he's feeling up the abdomen of a young male student. And we then, for a brief second, get to see whom one of the main characters is, Rachel Berry, played by Lea Michele. I know most people listening to this podcast probably want to hear us talk about Lea Michele a lot. We're going to. Just wait a second.
We're getting into it.
We sort of skip time a little bit and find out that the choir director is fired, and then Mr. Shu goes and asks to become the choir director, and that's where we find out about, hey, you have to pay me $60 a month so I don't use that auditorium space to be a AA meeting center. The principal is played by Iqbal Theba, who absolutely murders the role. Like, the small bits he's given are hysterical, and I truly feel like he's the only person who's giving me vibes of like, yes, I'm a public educator, and I am not getting nearly enough money to be here whatsoever.
Yeah, also, like, is this a public school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What are they doing renting it out to AA?
Oh, so we need to talk a little bit about Lima, Ohio. So Lima, Ohio, for those who don't know, is the main business there is they make all of Tide in Lima, Ohio. Like Procter & Gamble Tide, the Tide Pods made in Lima, Ohio, as well as that big orange carton. So the entire city smells like soap.
Oh God!
It is a wild
No one's
thing.
got cleaner water though.
But like that's also one of the interesting things. They say like, "Oh, hey, we don't have that much money." But like there's a Procter & Gamble pays so well. All right, Rich, we'll see you later. I was expecting a Tide
Pull a
Pod.
George Costanza. Just walk out. You're not going to do any better than that.
All right.
This is now a Tide Pod.
Max.
As this goes on, we just sort of like Mr. Shu gets the agreement. We then start to go through the fastest paced pilot I've ever seen of trying to cram every single character into 45 minutes of show. The first singer, Max, what did you think of Mercedes Jones? I want this on the record. The actress who plays Mercedes Jones has the best voice in this damn pilot, and she is underserved, like, in every shape or form. Like, no, I don't want any harm on Ryan Murphy, but fuck him for underserving this character.
Yeah, Amber Riley destroys this audition song, destroys this episode, just absolutely crushing it. Coming out of the gate, just guns blazing, belting respect by Aretha Franklin for her audition number, destroying it. If I am the kid in the hallway following this up, I am absolutely quaking at this point. There's no way that I want to be the person who has to follow up Mercedes Jones. I think this is the best audition number we see. These audition song choices are all over the place. I think a lot of them are sung well, but not really delivering the character. Definitely, like, they all have voice teachers, but not vocal coaches to actually perform these numbers, except for Mercedes, who demolishes this. It's then followed up by a Mr. Cellophane rendition by Kurt, who is not really delivering what I expect out of my Amos Hearts to bring me. He's singing it very pretty. There's no real pain or strife or grief in this performance that I want out of my Amoses. That's going to take us to Tina's I Kissed a Girl, complete with a very forward crotch chop.
I have to say, my favorite thing about Tina in this pilot is that she stutters when she writes her name. She goes Tina on the audition sheet.
I am shocked that joke stayed between the first airing of the pilot and the director's cut, to be honest. And then we get the queen herself.
Let's talk about the actress in the room and Lea Michele. So this entire, I think one of the things that the show does well, that a lot of pilots have to do, or some choose to do, is they try to fit exposition using narration, and these small little miniature montages. And Rachel Berry's
No.
It's Leah.
It is Leah. It is Leah. Lea Michele's montage is you do sort of feel bad for her. I remember I was transported back to how nasty some people can be, and you can tell she was, let's be honest, she was groomed to try to be a star by her parents. And I want to talk about Rachel Berry, but we just have to talk about Lea Michele. Lea Michele has so much going on right now, and I don't even know where to start. Korama, what are your thoughts on Lea Michele so I can organize
so glad
mine?
You asked.
I'm just gonna mute my microphone. Korama, you have the floor for at least 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I am first and foremost a general hater. I'm a hater. I believe in haters' rights. I think it's okay to hate. But secondary to being a hater generally, I am a hater of Lea Michele. But I will say, watching this pilot again, and I have not watched this pilot since June.
So
watching this
4
pilot
months ago?
again. But watching this pilot again, and prior to watching it in June, I hadn't seen it in many years. But watching the pilot again, I was impressed with the way that they were able to balance showing that Rachel Berry is an unlikable character, but also making us feel bad for her, which is a little bit how I personally feel about Lea Michele. I think that she is deeply unlikable. I don't think that people especially women, owe society likability. The reason that she is unlikable is because she does racist things and is bad. Like, I'm not saying, oh, she's like a Jennifer Lawrence thing where I'm like, I don't know what it is about her. I know exactly what it is about her. I know exactly what it is about Lea Michele that I do not like. And I will get to the literacy rumors momentarily. I promise, listeners. I'm getting to that. But Lea Michele has been difficult publicly since she was a child. I watched an interview of her when she was like 12, and I was like, wow, I would not want to work with that child. And like, I work with a child currently. I write on a show that has a child. I know what children are like. That was an unlikable child.
Was she like a child actor, child star
Yes.
person? Is that
Okay.
She started off playing young Cosette in Les Mis on Broadway, singing.
She would. So she did start her career on Broadway. She's most known for playing, I think it was Wendla in
the OBC of Spring Awakening.
Yeah.
In the original Broadway production of Spring Awakening. And she also did Ragtime. She was in Ragtime.
She was in Ragtime? That's my favorite musical.
I don't know if she was in the original cast of Ragtime, but she did do Ragtime as a child. So she did Les Mis, she did Ragtime, she did Spring Awakening. So by the time that Glee comes out, she is like a big, like, pop Broadway sensation, because Spring Awakening was also a la Wicked, very popular amongst teenagers. Like,
God,
I remember
living
they did
in the
Mama Who
tri-state
Bore
area
Me.
in the theater community when Spring Awakening came out on Broadway, the chokehold that this show and this cast, I know people who made their entire personalities Spring Awakening. Their rooms were wall-to-wall posters from magazines about this cast. They were camping out for Rush tickets.
They were rock
for a lot of
stars.
people, this was probably the first nudity you ever saw in your life because you were a theater kid.
My fun Lea Michele story is I had the privilege of seeing Spring Awakening's original Broadway cast. But I saw it with my parents sitting on either side of me.
Oh, no.
And
you were sandwiched?
We sat down. My dad got the tickets only hearing it was the hottest thing on Broadway. Cool. Wonderful seats. And I will say, I forget who was the male star, but he was a spitter. So, like, we were very glad we were...
Jonathan Groff is still a spitter!
Yeah,
He's
Jonathan-
still to this day!
Jonathan Groff, first 5 rows all have Jonathan Groff DNA within their system. But then the scene comes up where they have sex, and my parents just, like, I could hear their hearts stop.
Because it was so hot.
Could never look at Lea Michele quite the same. Even when Glee started, I remembered, oh shit. That's
that lady. So the lore about Lea Michele's audition for Glee is that she got into a car accident on her way to her audition on the lot. So she comes in with glass in her hair and her like book with her sheet music, gives it to the pianist. He starts, she's like, no, you've played it wrong. Start over again. I will say, when I was like 18, 19 and I heard that, I was like, that is so badass. Like, just to keep...
and the other driver died.
So Lea Michele, generally unlikable, difficult. People who have worked as background actors on the show have said that she referred to them as, like, I think it was cockroaches. And she's not a good person.
Good God.
And she loves Barbra Streisand. All she ever wanted was to be in the revival of Funny Girl. Now, for people who are not musical theater people,
or
the
not
current
Jewish.
revival of Funny Girl, the current revival of Funny Girl is the only revival ever. So there are 3 people who have been cast to play Fanny Bryce on the stage. Barbra Streisand, Beanie Feldstein, and Lea Michele, whose life goal it was. And my whole thing, again, I am a hater. Don't want her to succeed. My whole thing, there are 2 things. One, I think that Fanny Bryce should be played by a Jewish woman. And one thing that Glee did was convince the world that Lea Michele was Jewish when she is a practicing Catholic.
Oh my God.
She has a Jewish father. Catholics are not Jews. I feel like we can all agree on that. Catholics are not Jews.
Just days before this podcast was recorded, though, she did get excellent reviews from the New York Times, and critic Jesse Green can finally have his family returned to him by Lea Michele.
My second thing is I don't believe in rewarding people with their dream roles after they have been exposed for continued bad behavior in the workplace. It's not even a personal thing. It's the workplace. So that's why I am a Lea Michele hater. And now I will talk about whether or not she can read. The answer is, of course she can read. Of course she can read. Factually, Lea Michele can read. Spiritually, Lea Michele cannot read. And here's the thing. The thing about her literacy, those rumors I think started in like 2015. There's like some great videos online that can go more in depth than I have time to. Part of it is that she released a book called Brunette Ambition. First of all, dumb title. She released a book called Brunette Ambition.
It's the least interesting hair color.
And most of it is like pictures and recipes and not like words.
Oh no.
And
please don't make me a Lea Michele truther by the end of this podcast. I can only go on so many more YouTube tangents.
A lot of her Instagram captions were just emojis.
Oh my god, no.
And not any words. And it's just funny because...
She speaks Egyptian then. She's speaking in hieroglyphics.
Ancient Egyptian, yes. She's a purveyor of the classics. But like, the funny thing about the rumor that Lea Michele cannot read is that she did not address it for years. She wouldn't like say, yes, I can read. And even recently, she was like, I think it's misogynistic that people say that about me. And I'm like, okay, but you didn't say you can read.
Her rebuttal was like, I always knew my lines. And it's like, that doesn't back it up.
That is not the answer.
She drumlined us. She Nick Cannon and drumlined us.
My
God. Just listened to cast recordings.
Well, no, and then that's the other thing. Apparently, she never wanted like sheet music or lyric sheets on the set of Glee. She would listen to the original recordings. And I think that learning through listening is a valid way to learn. But does it back up the rumor that she can't read? Yes, it does! And then the other thing is, Spring Awakening recently got back together and they're recording a new cast album.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a video that somebody made of them in the studio. Everyone else had sheet music on their music stand, and Lea did not. Lea did not. And I know that she knows the show. I know that she knows the entire show. There's no reason for her to have to look at sheet music. But when you're the only one, isn't that suspicious? But I think she can read?
Be doing it.
Yes, I think she can read. But will I say, Lea Michele can't read? Yes. Am I making fun of the approximately 15 to 20% of adults in this country that have issues with literacy? No,
absolutely
I am only making fun of Lea Michele.
Wow. I mean, that was a great breakdown of friend of the pod, Lea Michele. Lea, if you're listening, text me.
So Rachel Berry comes up, takes to the stage, finds her light, and starts to sing On My Own from Les Miserables, a show that we've also established.
Seminal Broadway classic Les Mis.
A show that we've also established that Lea Michele was in singing the less show-stopping number Castle on a Cloud in her youth. And yes, she belts her ass off and gives a pretty good rendition of Eponine's showstopper On My Own. But in this moment, Lea Michele convinced an entire generation of young thespians that they are Eponines. That they are belters who can handle this song. And I don't want to be the one to have to break it to you all here, but a lot of you aren't going to be Eponines in your school plays. A lot of you are going to be Cosettes. And that's fine. A lot of you are going to be ingenues. A lot of you are going to try and spend your teenage years belting Eponine, and you're going to give yourself nodes before you're in college. I've seen it firsthand. It is painful to watch a 17-year-old get vocal surgery. Rich, for your world, this is like when a high school kid has to get Tommy John surgery.
Thank you so much. I was really lost there for a second.
But it just sets an unrealistic expectation. You are not all going to be Panine. Most of you are going to be Cosette, and that is fine. And I blame Lea Michele for this as well.
I hear you, and I agree with you, but I am an Eponine. I just want to make that also very well known.
Do we have any other audition songs that you want to talk through, Max?
I think I fit everything, because after that, we do cut to Artie doing Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat from Guys and Dolls in that first rehearsal.
Yeah, so not great for disability. Not great to cast an able-bodied actor as a disabled character.
Whose parents were quoted after the premiere of the show being, "Why did we spend all that money on dance lessons?"
They did have to tell him, stop tapping your toes during the dance scenes. Like, that's not a joke. I remember reading an interview like 15 years ago.
So after that stirring rendition of Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat, where everything appears to be a mess, we do get a little bit more background in the high school hierarchy amongst the staff, even. We find out that Sue Sylvester is Queen Bee, but we're introduced to a couple of other characters. We're introduced to the PE teacher / football coach, Ken, as well as the guidance counselor, Emma Pillsbury, played by Jayma Mays.
Who has, to this day, the craziest eyes I have ever seen.
But
she can stare. She has stared through my soul. Have you guys seen all the promos for the new movie Smile? It's very similar to that for me. Korama.
I just want to go on record. Do this.
So I'm waiting for Korama to just do the Smile, and then we find out that she actually was paid by Smile to do that promotion. We learn a little bit more about Mr. Shu, though. Like, he does have a partner whom works at Sheets and Things, which is a great name for a store that sells sheets and things.
She sells sheets and things.
If only there was a department store around this time that sold perhaps linens and things.
I think there was one. I think it was called Linen and Stuff.
We do get a little bit of a picture, though, in like Mr. Shu's life at home might not be the best in the world. Like, he married his high school sweetheart, whom definitely just does not seem happy that he's pursuing things outside of becoming an accountant, which is harder than just applying to become an accountant. I want to just note that. You can't just step into an accountant firm and be like, I'd also like to be an accountant, please. And then we also find that she's upset that they're trying to have a family. They're trying to build their home. But, you know, Mr. Shu is focused on the glory days and Glee itself. But we do get to find out a little bit more about the nightmare of Glee as the former director, Sandy Ryerson, played by Stephen Tobolowsky, shows up with his new side hustle that he's very happy to promote.
He started selling weed within hours of getting fired. Hours.
He said, I just tell my doctor Feelgood that I have trouble sleeping and he gives me all of it I want. I love Sandy Ryerson. Sandy Ryerson and Terry Schuster are honestly two of my favorite characters. Not because they're good, but because they are so unabashedly bad. They're just not... Terry Schuster, I mean, when she says, I'm on my feet 4 hours a day, 3 times a week here, and you want me to go home and cook my own dinner, I was like, that's the energy I want to have. But I am scared of societal expectations of being good and productive.
Rich, one of the things that at this point in the episode I started to notice was that there was a cappella music in the background happening at multiple points throughout the episode, and it sort of started to be the only thing that stood out to me.
Yeah, like, personally, it felt like when you hear about someone with, like, a very specific, like, brain disorder, where they're just like, I woke up one day in my bed, and all of a sudden, I couldn't stop hearing a cappella renditions to things. Like, it was kind of like, personally, okay, I'm going to tell this to three of you right now, and eventually to the hundreds of millions of people that listen to this podcast. I fucking hate acapella music. I hate it so much. I hate it so much. Just play instruments. Just play instruments. Just play instruments. For the love of God, just play instruments.
Why would I play instruments when I have my mouth?
Yeah. The voice
God's
is the instrument. The original instrument.
I hate it so much. I hate it so much. It truly drives me insane. So it was like the entire episode, okay, so look, everyone in this show can sing like crazy. It's I love that a lot. I truly just don't like the little acapella background or like transition songs that are happening throughout it. It's like, I know we have a note here that says it's mostly like Quincy Jones songs and stuff like that, but there's also like, was it Beethoven's Fifth or something like that?
They do a fifth of Beethoven.
Well, it's Quincy Jones is a fifth of Beethoven.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You wouldn't know that because you played baseball in high school.
Yeah.
With Quincy Jones.
Well, then maybe you recognized Saul Bossa Nova from the Austin Powers movies by Quincy Jones.
You bet I did. I just I'm not a huge fan of that. I would love to hear why you guys enjoy it, but whoa, do I really not like that?
It's fun. I can do it too. Like,
I know you can.
Ba, 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 ba. Like, I'm like, yeah, they're like me.
Wait, Korama, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Pause the podcast.
Rich
With my secret instruments. Just kidding.
Yeah, I heard music, but there's no instruments nowhere.
Mr. Shu starts to realize that there's going to be issues with the talent that he has. So there was this whole problematic bit where Rachel Berry basically confronts him and is like, if you can't improve the quality of the talent, I'm out. Where the fuck is she going? Like, in all honesty, what does she have better to do than to, other than post videos on her MySpace page and get made fun of? Like,
yeah.
At least she's not being made fun of her peers who also are in the Glee Club. Like, that's the only thing that sort of like revolved in my mind. But he comes to this idea of, I have to have someone from the football team. You have to get someone to lead the pack, as Miss Pillsbury said to him. And then we have a scene that became really iconic, but I was really troubled by
so problematic.
Where Finn is singing I Can't Fight This Feeling Any Longer, which, great song.
REO Speedwagon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
REO
finally
Speedwagon.
some music that Rich appreciates.
Yeah.
You uncultured swine, I'll shit in your wig.
So
you are the Finn of this group. I hope you know that.
I know that. I also can't sing.
Oh no, who am I? Am I Rachel Berry? Is Rachel Berry me?
No,
I'm
unfortunately,
Rachel Berry.
I think Korama's Rachel Berry.
I know I'm Rachel Berry. And that's part
think
of why I hate Lea Michele, because I see the divinity in me. Well, not divinity. The annoying in me sees the annoying in her.
But we have this troubling scene where Mr. Shu hears Finn singing REO Speedwagon. He's doing fine. I'm just going to say that. He is doing perfectly fine. But
Very adequate work.
Finn is in a shower, and Mr. Shu is a teacher. The last Glee teacher got fired for an inappropriate interaction with the student, and Mr. Shu is just like, you know what? This is real cool. Like, I'm just gonna listen to this under 18-year-old sing while he's completely naked and dancing around with his tits and bits. And
this scene reminded me of the classic Simpsons episode where they form the B Sharps and they find Barney Gumble
in the
like
bathroom,
singing on the floor of the bathroom with this like beautiful tenor. For those at home, drink.
We do get, like, they use narration as a tool once again. We get this really, like, I think Finn, of the characters that they do this on, is the most pure of, like, narration as a tool. Kid who just really wants to prove his mom that he was worth it. Like, she invested all this time. She gave him really everything. It's a sweet story. I know Darren is not a great guy, but Darren seems like the fucking man. Like, Darren.
I know. I was like, I want to be Darren. I want to show up with a giant tanker truck of green spray paint.
We don't know what Promise is. that Darren made to Finn's mom. Like, we truly don't know if it was exclusive or if she just thought it was deeper than it was.
Yeah. Darren might have
pick and save could have been his soulmate.
They might have just been like, Darren just came over to paint the grass and she got upset when she found out he was taken. Like,
I love the phrase "paint the grass."
What is that career they just invented?
No, it's real.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
I Googled it. It is real. And do you know what's funny? I'm a coastal elite. I'm from California. I saw that on TV and I was like, sure, that's what people in Ohio do. Never questioned it until yesterday. Never questioned it.
Oh, no.
So meanwhile,
apologize to all of our listeners in Ohio.
Darren's just gyrating and spraying his hose around, belting "Love and Touch and Squeezing" by Journey, and Finn discovers his love of music, hence his passion for the 80s power ballad we see him belting in the shower.
And then Mr. Shu decides to show his inner villain tendencies by blackmailing Finn with the little sample of pot that he was given by Sandy. And we then get a very nervous rendition of Grease with Rachel Berry very provocatively approaching Finn, even though he does have a girlfriend played by Diana Agron, Jewish princess, who's playing the head of the...
Jewish princess.
She is!
Yeah, she's representing the chosen, y'all.
Wow.
And
Leah's not doing it!
So this part gave me pause in this particular part of the episode because for me, someone who does not have musical theater experience, any singing experience whatsoever, I was like, wow, they sound really good for having only practiced like maybe twice in the episode. And then they're like, as soon as they're done, like absolutely fucking belting at each other, they're like, "Oh, guys, we sound like shit. Why are we so bad at this?" And I don't understand like why were they feeling so down on themselves? Was because they all sound great.
That's the one thing. I think that, Rich, I definitely agree with you. These are all great singers, right? These are all very talented singers for the most part. The thing that they're very bad at, and then they sort of like hide at the end of the episode, we're going to talk about Don't Stop Believin', don't you worry, is that they're like, oh, they figured out choreography because they can all step in line with like the laziest choreography in the world. But the thing that sort of drove me mad, and I think like, I don't know about you, Max, or you, Korama, but like, I was sort of like, I was in choir. We did the same, like we only did 4 verses in some times, and that was it. We did that for an hour. How are they learning new songs every single time we see them? When are they learning these new songs? Like coming up with a Glee, like for singing Hoosiers and stuff like that, it takes weeks, months to come up with like even a single song. How the hell do they think they're gonna just upright start and be stars?
Yeah, there would be several rehearsals dedicated just to rhythm practice before you even get this thing on its feet.
Oh, for sure the time, Glee exists in a wormhole where time means nothing and you can sing a song once and be perfect. Like, that's not what's happening. Like, one of them would be flat the whole time. Yeah. It would be Tina. Tina would be flat.
After this rendition, they decide that they're going to go and see the regional champs from Carmel, Indiana.
A fictional town made up for this show.
No. We're going to talk about Carmel, Indiana. Carmel, Indiana, I can only describe as a very special, very rich suburb of Indianapolis. And when you see that show choir step on stage, I could not help but think, yep, they're from Carmel, Indiana. Max and Rich, did you have any thoughts being former residents of Indiana when seeing the Carmel, Indiana show choir?
Carmel, Indiana, for those at home, is like, what if the Victory Project from Don't Worry, Darling was next to a soybean field?
It's also like one of the wealthiest areas of the Midwest. It's like, I don't know, a lot of people have compared it to like the Beverly Hills of Indianapolis. It's extremely expensive.
It has a concerning amount of roundabouts.
There's so many.
That is also true.
Every turn is a roundabout. There's no such thing as a stoplight there.
I'm
Very
gonna
European.
offend people from the Midwest once again and say
Amazing.
never had no questions about anything. I was like, this is just Ohio. I did not know that Carmel was a real place, and I did not know it was not in Ohio. I truly thought that it was just another place in Ohio. But I will say the show does not do a good job of accurately representing Ohio, because I heard that there's a school later that's in a different town, and they're like, oh, this person switched from this school to that school. And it's like, there's no way someone could commute from one of those schools to the other.
Yeah, just for those at home, a little bit more of Indianapolis adjacent geography. Ryan Murphy is a graduate of North Central High School in Indianapolis, and a lot of Glee is inspired by his time at North Central, which actually does have a very big show choir. Like North Central show choir, having gone to Indiana University, is a big deal.
And Carmel High School also has a gigantic show choir program.
But it's very much like the public high school in the city of Indianapolis versus the affluent suburban show choir.
Do we want to talk about how there was not a single singer in the Carmel High School show choir, and they were all just Broadway dancers? Because I looked up every single one of their IMDb's, and none of them have any singing credits whatsoever.
I want to discuss if it's appropriate for a bunch of 16 and 17-year-olds to sing Rehab by Amy Winehouse.
Of course it is. It's a popular song.
Okay, moving on.
Is it appropriate? Is it appropriate? I listened yesterday. Can't explain why. I listened yesterday to a Kids Bop version of Truth Hurts by Lizzo, where they said, I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% that kid.
Oh, no.
Yes. Why didn't they do Kids Bop instead?
Oh, my God. 100% that kid.
100%
Jesus.
that kid.
That's amazing.
I hate it so much.
After, we see what the ceiling should look like, what national champions look like, everyone's really down. Mr. Shu is questioning whether or not they're going to be able to. You see him literally shocked in silence as all of them, a fun shot. But then they get home and Mr. Shu finds out he's going to be a dad. If you're listening to the podcast, I did use air quotes because I don't. Even
a great medium to use on an audio platform.
We talked about how his wife is a villain or has villain tendencies.
I love her.
You can't trust her. She has, what was it? She had toilet brushes. She had 3 of the same toilet brushes. Who knows if
They're
that
Balinese.
Duh.
Who knows if she knows how to read a pregnancy test?
Bolognese.
Bolognese?
Oh, mamma mia.
But after we find this out, there actually was a nice bit where Emma Pillsbury sort of tries to be you really want to be a Glee show choir director. You saw so much joy. Look at your face from this recording from 1993 that they definitely couldn't have told his face from. I have video recordings from 1993. They look terrible. But he said, I knew who I was then. And for the first time in my life, I know who I am because I'm going to be a dad and he's going to quit. So Rachel Berry decides she's going to become the Glee show choir director, which of
this
course
is not the last time that happens on the show.
No, it is not. It is not for those who have watched most of the show.
Lea Michele power grab? How could they? Again?
But as we do get Mr. Shu and Matthew Morrison singing Leaving on a Jet Plane in a fine rendition.
Fuck
it's
this
very
guy.
Forgettable.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy. He walks out on stage, he saunters, just sees the acoustic guitar that happens to be lying on this stool, picks it up. There are so many musical overlaps on this performance too. There is no way that he is just playing an acoustic guitar and singing along. There are so many music lines underneath this performance. It is bullshit. Fuck Matthew Morrison.
Matthew Morrison is truly a jump scare at this point in my life. When I see him, I'm afraid.
We're going to spend this entire episode at least shitting on every single person in this show, except for Stephen Tobolowsky and Amber Riley.
And Jessalyn Gilsig, who plays Terry Schuster.
During that, we do get the realization of Finn thinks, oh, I'm going to quit Glee. It's over. Finn sort of has this, like, turning of foot where he realizes, like, you know what? No, I'm not going to pick on Artie. How they got him in the... did they get him into the porta potty with the wheelchair? I have a lot of questions on the logistics of that and how they did it and got him in there just in general. But
let's dedicate at least 20 minutes to that.
You know what? 30 minutes just to porta potty logistics.
I have a diagram here, actually. No, I'm kidding.
Karama, in your most bullying years, how would you say one would do that?
We could talk about like bullying techniques for an hour in the show because it's traumatizing.
There's some really harsh names used in this too, like some real harsh name calling.
Big time.
After that, though, Finn sort of takes the leadership role. Like that is his awakening as the leader of the Glee Club that Mr. Shu was looking for. As they are leaving the football field, we see the fucking man Darren again, and he's rocking out to "Don't Stop Believing." And I don't know how much money Journey made after Glee came out, but I have to assume
I actually do.
Oh
how
my
much
God.
money?
Wait, is that the quiz of the day?
No, it is not. However, it is related to that.
Is Darren there, or is that a fever dream?
No,
That's my question. I feel like, okay, so when I watched it when I was 18, I thought it was a dream. But when I watched it yesterday, I was like, I think he's there.
I think Darren's just chilling out, painting the grass.
Is Darren painting the football field, or is this like Finn projecting this image of a person he admired as a young boy, being like, oh, I'm becoming the person I looked up to when I was young?
So the reason I think that I'm gonna be a truther on this and say they weren't there, because the woman from the Pick and Save was literally propped up on top of the truck like a mud flap design, and I don't think anyone in their right mind would actually just sit there and pose like that in the sun.
Yeah, she's giving like Tawny Katane in a Whitesnake video in that moment.
Yeah,
I will say, I just assumed that's what happened in Ohio. I truly don't know what goes on in the middle of the country.
Call up your grass painter.
But we end this show with the song that was heard around the world, right? Everyone heard "Don't Stop Believing" in 2009.
Why is Finn still carrying a football helmet at this point?
I did notice
Why
that
does he
detail
still
too.
have that in his hand?
He walks all the way to the
stage.
auditorium.
He is on the auditorium stage still holding a football helmet. Why?
I've never noticed that. I truly have not seen that. I'm looking in his face. I'm like, that's my boy. I love Corey Monteith. That's another person that I will never talk shit on.
Yeah.
Love Corey Monteith. And
His audition,
I cry when I watch Glee just because I'm like, oh, Corey's dead and I will never see him do anything else ever again. And I have like a serious problem with rewatching Glee and crying and then not being able to watch a couple of days and then being able to watch again and then crying and then just a vicious cycle.
Yeah, like the way this episode ends is so pure. You can't not be like, everyone kills it. The fake jazz band that is pretending to play the instruments does great. Artie has a guitar solo that tells me he's never played the guitar a day in his life.
Why does everyone hold hold instruments in this in this show like they've never seen one before?
He's holding it like a bass.
Finn's just playing away on those drums. Just
He can actually play
he
the
actually
drums.
like that's the wild part is he
can't fake
auditioned
that.
by doing a video of him drumming. That was how he did the open auditions, and because he knew he couldn't sing. And
really,
I'm not joking. He literally did a drum audition, and then they brought him in for a second audition. They forced him to sing, and they were like, "Good enough. We'll get you like a vocal coach to get you in a better place." So over the course of the show, the history of the show, and this is one of the really cool things, they say like one of the throwaway lines that Mr. Shu says is like, "I think we can get you to a high B." He was able to like by the end of the show hit like a C or a high C or a high D, and because of the vocal coach which is amazing. Like,
That's
talking
my
about
boy.
a man in his 20s being able to hit that range while not having any singing experience, like,
It's pretty impressive.
That deserves an Emmy Award or a Grammy or something. I don't know who we talked to about getting a posthumous award to Corey Monteith, but he deserves it. But the show ends with Mr. Shu deciding, I'm back. You know, like,
Yeah.
he's fully bought in. He sees the potential again. And the show ends.
Just from the top, blackout.
Yeah.
I will say, one of the important things that you did leave out, Jeff, is that we do get we get shots of Sue Sylvester and two of her Cheerios, Quinn, who we've established is Finn's girlfriend and head of the Celibacy Club, and Santana Lopez, who becomes very important later in the show. And we also see a shot of Puck, who's the football player who farts in the scene with Mr. Shu. And we get to see these like antagonists, future antagonists. So we get a hint of what's to come.
Ooh, foreshadowing. We love that here.
Yeah, it does a good job of setting up what's to come for the future. So we talked a lot about a lot of different things. Was there anything that you really loved about this pilot that you were like, I just want to give it a few seconds of praise or a few minutes of praise?
Yes. The scene on the bleachers with Rachel, where yes, she does make an insane demand. She's like, I am going to leave if you don't. I need a male lead that can keep up with me vocally. And I'm just like, first of all, Artie was singing fine. Like, you're being ableist. You just don't think he can sing because he's in a wheelchair. But I do love, there's like a raw emotion of like, he's like, you changed out of your costume. And she said, I'm tired of people laughing at me. And he asked the question we're all asking, you like, you think Glee Club can change that? But the idea that being a part of something special makes you special, and how she feels like her time to like make an impact in high school and have a place in high school is disappearing. And I feel like I identified with that a lot when I watched it as a teenager, and I still identify with it a lot as an adult, as a professional adult. I'm like, God, I see these people getting these shows and having these hits and all of that stuff, and I'm like, is my time ticking away? And being a part of something special does make you feel special. I don't know. I'm a big team mentality person.
Although this show was written by Ryan Murphy, so there are some dark things that happen in this show, there are a lot of really sweet messages associated with it. It really, like, I was debating with my partner about this in the idea of like, hey, like, I think Ryan Murphy hit the scene with Nip Tuck. Personally, I think that is what put him on the map. And she was like, no, it was Glee and then American Horror Story.
For me, it was Popular.
Yeah. And then there is Popular, like, and that's not in my discography of Ryan Murphy, but like, I recognize that that was a popular show, but it just shows how well done and like how brilliant he is as a writer, that he can have these dark, terrifying jokes about waterboarding and about like false pregnancies, which, spoiler alert, it's a false pregnancy. And
you read ahead.
I know I did. But I really like, well done by him on just doing such like a show that makes us feel things not like, and brings us back to high school and those senses that we had. Anything else that y'all really loved about the podcast or not the podcast, everyone loves the podcast, about the pilot as a whole?
Rich, this is your first time, and as a non-musical person, I would love to hear how you
I want to know what the non-musical theater choir boy thinks of this.
Yeah, how's the weather over there?
I was not a fan. I just didn't like it. There are plenty of redeeming moments. I think personally, like, you know, this came out in 2009, so I think that the football player going towards like a dramatic or arts thing in any sort of show or play or anything like that, I think it's really worn out. I don't know how worn out it was in 2009. So it was
High School Musical had already released all three.
High School Musical was
which
3
came
years
out when?
before this.
Oh, 3 years before. So yeah, I personally, like, I I'm not a huge fan of musicals in general. Or just like I know. I can hear it. Everyone can hear the eyes rolling.
I'm watching you lose a friend. So if this is any endorsement of our YouTube channel, you get to watch Rich lose a friend live.
Tune in this week. Rich alienates everyone who he loves.
Yeah, Rich, you're gonna be on my own.
I personally, I think I would give this show more views. Like, I would watch more of it. I just like, I want to see where everything goes with Sue Sylvester. Like, I really think Jane Lynch is fucking hilarious as a villain. And for me, she's my favorite part of this. I also love the absolute 2009 brag of her owning an iPhone.
Yes.
That is an absolute status symbol. That's probably my favorite part of this so far. But as someone invested literally not at all with any of the music that's happening, I'm excited to see where the environment that's so toxic that she creates.
I just love so many of the one-liners throughout this, and whatever contribution of Murphy and Brennan it is. I love Sue Sylvester calling an interview a phoner. The phrasing of that is so delightful to me. I love everything in the Rachel Berry voiceover exposition scene where she talks about using gold stars because it's a metaphor and metaphors are important. I learned that metaphors are important through Rachel Berry. Her hot stuff laptop sticker is so great to me. The absolute bonkers revelation of she doesn't know which of her two dads is her real dad is utter chaos. It is so unhinged to me.
Very funny.
But yeah, and then just like Mercedes' line too, when they're doing the Grease scene of saying "I'm a Beyonce, ain't no Kelly Rowland." Like
that was such a great line.
I love this, like the specificity of the one-liners. There's so much over the top humor. I really do appreciate that everyone in this cast is playing at a 9 or a 10, and then somehow Lea Michele is acting in a different show when everyone's already playing to the last row of the back. I don't know. It's fun. It's campy. The energy is just, it's easy to watch. Like, I could see how you could just go through episodes of this and lose track of time.
I do want to give one thing that I love. If you're listening to this and you don't think I think Darren is the man, you're nuts. But also... But also...
People, Jeff has a mullet. Watch the YouTube feed of this. He has cut his hair into a mullet.
We want more Darren.
But also, Ken sounds like a solid hang. They got monster truck rally seats and like... Even though
absolute psycho around women, though.
I think he does not understand social cues, which is an entirely different podcast and conversation. But I'd hang out with Ken just to take the seats to the monster truck rally as a whole.
I am not a Ken Tanaka fan. However, I do think Truckosaurus Rex sounds super cool. Like, that sounds fun.
It sounds so cool. I would use him for his tickets and only his tickets.
Does it have tiny arms?
I would hope so. If it doesn't, I'm really disappointed leaving that event. Any wait a minute moments for you of things that just sort of stuck out and maybe didn't age that well?
This was bad then, but Artie in a wheelchair as a non-wheelchair
using him as a prop.
Oh, that is funny though. Like, I think it speaks to Rachel's character that she's just like, I'm gonna push the wheelchair. And if you look at Mr. Shu's face in that moment, he's like, come on, Rachel. There is a boy in the chair.
Some of these jokes and one-liners by Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan also are incredibly stuck in 2009. I take issue with the high school principal taking a dig on Glee Club for only having 5 kids and one of them's a cripple. Like, that's a really messed up thing for a high school principal to say about a student, like, as a person in an educator's role. The sign-up sheet in the football locker room having the names Gaylord Wiener, Butt Munch, and Penis. That's not dated. It's just lazy. And then, of course, the constant layering of musical parts and vocal harmonies that are clearly not there. Like,
they're not there.
Shu singing John Denver, and there's like multiple guitar parts underneath here. I don't know where all of these vocal lines are coming from in Don't Stop Believing. Like, the arrangement does not match the number of people on stage.
No. Just be a part of the magic.
Let it happen.
Just give in. Give in. It's about the journey, not the destination. Hey.
Oh!
Max, don't stop believing.
So I'd love to talk a little bit about the show legacy. So this show had 6 seasons and a movie. Shout out to Community.
Wow.
Which just got its
121
movie.
episodes. They did Glee 3D concert movie, as well as
Remember when everything was in 3D for a couple of years?
Yeah.
This is like a cyclical thing, though. Like, everything was in 3D for a couple of years, every like 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
They also did a live tour. I believe Lea Michele was not in the tour, which tracks. As far as the show itself, it was syndicated worldwide. Viewership, ratings peaked in season 1, but viewership peaked in season 2, and then everything started to slowly go downhill. The show won 78 awards off of 194 nominations, including
Jesus.
6 Emmys, 4 Golden Globes, and 3 Writer Guild Awards. And it
Wow.
almost, I am trademarking this as, achieved the From the Womb to the Grave Award, patent pending, winning a Kids' Choice Award, a Teen Choice Award, and a People's Choice Award. It was so close. It did not win a People's Choice. It didn't win a Kids' Choice Award. I think it might have been a little bit too adult.
Because as we all know, you're a kid, then you're a teen, and then you're a
And
people.
you're a person. You're a people.
It was even nominated for a Grammy. Jane Lynch won a Golden Globe, as well as Chris Colfer won a Golden Globe, which is amazing. And then Neil Patrick Harris also won a Golden Globe for best one-time actor on a show. He was in like 2 episodes, and Ryan Murphy won one for best director. But I think what this show really left was it brought back the idea of like TV musicals are okay.
It did.
Like,
without Glee, we never would have had Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. We
100%.
never would have had Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, for which I am so glad that we have it, because I think that's an amazing show. I'm
It's
a
an
huge
important
Rachel
show.
Bloom fan.
I was going to say,
same.
now you work with Rachel Bloom, so...
Yeah, I was
Yes.
about to say, like, literally, I love Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I think Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist is what Glee might have wanted to be, in all honesty. Like, that is a show that ended way too early. It had a very nice story arc, and it was ended nicely, but, like, if you have not watched Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, Gallivant, like, Korama, you put a list together of shows that I'm just like,
I
yes,
did.
yes, yes, and yes. Like,
And I forgot the one. There's this one that's like a southern town where there's church happening. I don't remember the name of the show, but there was like another musical show that was on recently that I
was just
I'm
about
not
to
gonna
say,
watch that.
my wife and I recently started Monarch, which stars Susan Sarandon, and that is like, what an ode to country. It's not in the same vein of like that, but there's enough music where you're like, yeah, I'm into this. Like, I can definitely just sit down and watch Susan Sarandon. I'm not going to spoil that show because, boy, could I. As far as other legacies, it's a little bit complicated. Does anyone want to talk about sort of what happened post-Glee with a lot of the folks?
I know who I want to hear
would
from.
love to. I would love to. So 3 of the original cast members, so 3 people that are in this very pilot that we are discussing, are now dead. And I'm like, is the Glee cast cursed? It's a little bit crazy to think of a cast that was so young and on a show that was not that long ago having that high of a percentage of main characters be dead. It's not like, oh, that girl that walked by one time. No, named characters. So the actors in order of death are Corey Monteith, and then Mark Salling, who played Puck, the guy with the mohawk. And most recently, Naya Rivera, who played Santana Lopez, who I don't believe speaks in this episode for more than like a line, if at all. but is a huge character later on. I don't think we've talked about this, but the one thing that I am sympathetic about with Lea Michele is that she was absolutely, utterly, and totally in love with Corey Monteith, and they were dating when he passed. It is very tragic to be in love with somebody that you work so closely with and to have to continue working on that project without that person, and to have your grief be very public and not really be able to express it. Now, is that maybe part of the reason that she was such a nightmare? Probably not. He died in season 4. So way more than halfway through the show's run. But I do say that is the one area where like I am sympathetic towards Lea Michele. But the other legacy is a lot of the people from Glee who are not like doing other things. Like a lot of main cast members have not been successful in the entertainment industry beyond that. Like Kevin McHale, don't really know what he's doing. I will say Amber Riley, suspected to currently be the harp on The Masked Singer. We don't know if it's her for sure, but I heard her singing and I was like, oh, that's Amber.
Matthew 100%. Morrison absolutely sold his soul to the devil to get Mr. Shoe. I can name 2 prominent Matthew Morrison roles after Glee's run. The first is he is a lead in the film Tulip Fever, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but also a truly cursed production, a movie that was set to come out in 2014 in the thick of Glee's run, when it would have been a big deal to have Matthew Morrison in the lead, ends up getting delayed all the way until 2017.
Whoa.
And also is the movie from the Weinstein Company that came out right as all of the Harvey Weinstein allegations were breaking.
Yikes.
After that, the only thing we could find to do with Matthew Morrison was to put him in the most painted green, probably by Darren, prosthetics to make him play the Grinch in a live TV musical, How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
I will say, Matthew Morrison also did do a guest star arc on Grey's Anatomy, where he played an abuser who ends up accidentally dying. And he also was in one episode of MTV's Younger, starring Sutton Foster and Hilary Duff, where he played a man who fucked a sheep. So
now he will always be Link Larkin from the original Broadway cast of Hairspray. There will always be that to a large generation of musical theater lovers. There's also a lot of stuff about Matthew Morrison being a terrible person as well. Stories about his broken engagement with Chriselle Strauss of Selling Sunset, a show that comes up on this podcast way too much.
Drink.
And then, like, with Chris Colfer, I know that he is a author. He writes a fantasy series that's actually pretty well done pretty well. I know that Kevin McHale was on actually one of the seasons of American Horror Stories. He was on a one episode that was really good about like influencers in LA that I highly recommend.
He is a TikToker. That's his big thing now.
And then Jane Lynch is just killing it.
She's a household name.
She's absolutely murdering as a whole.
She's the one person who never needed this show to continue on to success.
I mean,
I don't think she needed it, but I think it is the thing that made Jane Lynch a household name.
Yeah, it's the thing that launched her from like Christopher Guest movie character actress to like mainstream, because like she is fantastic on the first. It was on Stars, Rich. No one watched Party Down in real time.
If you had Stars, you wanted HBO.
When it was on.
You wanted HBO if you had Stars. That's how
Party Down is coming back. Enough people watched it to get it a revival.
Korama, we might have to have you back because we're going to do Party Down fairly soon.
Sure, I'll be back here as many times as you'll have me. But I found out that Party Down was coming back because I was going for a walk on the Paramount lot and I saw some like carts that said like golf carts that said Party Down on them. I'm like, what year is it?
Well, you know, we do like to take questions, in-flight calls, as we like to call them, from our passengers and our podcast listeners. And we do have one question, and I'm going to pose it to all of you. If Don't Stop Believing is not available for the end song, what song are you replacing it with? All right, so I will start us off because I have a list of 7. So first of all, I have a list of just songs that I think Darren would be listening to. Because we have...
Darren's the man.
Because Darren's the fucking man. And we're going to start off with We're Not Gonna Take It by the Pointer Sisters. We're then going to have Living on a Prayer, Bon Jovi. Okay. Faith by George Michael. Freedom by George Michael. And then You Make My Dream Come True by Hall & Oates.
Wow.
As well as Take On Me by Aha. And then I have one that I just want, which is Take a Chance on Me by ABBA.
Oh, I like that.
I would absolutely listen to a mixtape that Darren made me.
So we're definitely going off of songs that like have more of a rock and roll feel. Like they want to be different. They want to have like that inspiration from the mirage of Darren, who definitely like died in some explosion or something like that before any of this. There's no way.
The green paint tanker blew.
It blew up. I think I just gotta go. Here I Go Again by Whitesnake.
Oh, I think that's a really solid choice.
That's a real Darren song.
I was thinking long and hard about why people connected so much with Don't Stop Believing, like why it blew up. And the answer I came to, what I landed on, is because Don't Stop Believing was featured in The Sopranos. It's a very similar overlap in terms of fan bases, Glee and Sopranos. So I was thinking, what's a song that was not only featured, but actually sung on The Sopranos that would make for a great finale? And, I know that Lea Michele is an alto and a belter, but even though the song was sung by a soprano, I think it's in her wheelhouse. And that's the 1972 classic Dirty Work by Steely Dan, which was featured in episode 1 of season 3 of The Sopranos when Tony drives around singing it in his car being trailed by FBI agents.
All right, so here's the problem. The problem is teen girls are probably the biggest demo that this was targeted toward, right? I was a teen girl. I fell in love with the show. Teen girls are also the target demo of the CW classic that ran for 15 seasons, Supernatural. Okay. A show that is very heavily associated with one song that I think would be perfect in this, would it not give people the association with Supernatural? And that is Carry On by Kansas. Ooh. I feel like that would have been the perfect song both to evoke the sense of like hope for the future and also a Darren choice. But the reason that I wouldn't do it is because of Supernatural, because that is the song of Supernatural. Every season, at the end of the season and the finale, they play it, do the montage of what's happened so far that season. It is the best. I love it. It brings me to life. But
I'm changing mine to Bring Me to Life by Evanescence.
Can't wake up!
If you would like to leave us a question, you can feel free to DM us or give us a call at 213-290-1713, and we'll make sure to answer you on our next episode. With that, Rich, it's your time to shine, my man. It is Rich's Game of the Week.
As a business major, I have thought about how much all these episodes have cost so frequently during while watching this pilot, because they have 14 copyrighted songs throughout this pilot, something like that. But I did want to ask Korama, I think you're going to know the answer to this, but for those of us that didn't watch Glee all the way, I want everyone here to take a second with this list and think about what individual artist was used the most on the run of Glee. And I have a few options for you, and you can pick which one. Katy Perry, Stevie Wonder, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Lady Gaga, Billy Joel, Elton John, and Adele. Which of these artists do you think was used the most in the entire run of Glee in the 6 seasons?
So off the bat, I'm trying to think about artists who had a good base of songs prior to this show being released, because Glee is like 09 to 15 in terms of its run. Mm-hmm. So mathematically, I'm probably thinking it's not Katy Perry, It's not Adele. Their discographies were a little bit shorter at this point. I think Perry's third album, Prism, came out probably close in that like 14, 15. I remember her like on the giant line at the Super Bowl. Adele, same deal. I think she only has 2 records at this point. I am going to go with Madge herself, Madonna.
I'm thinking very similarly to you, Max, because I'm going into my nerd SAT brain, and there's 2 artists on here that are very similar in genre. And I think one of them is on here as a trick, so I won't pick the other. And that is Billy Joel and Elton John are just staring me in the face as gentlemen with gigantic discography that have piano as their mainstay. So I am going to go with Elton John.
I picked Lady Gaga.
Ooh, all of these great picks. I will say that one of you got it correct, and it is Max Singer. It was Madonna.
Wow.
With 19.
I almost guessed Madonna because they did a Madonna episode. They also did a Gaga episode, but I think it was a split Gaga-Katy episode.
Most of these they did episodes for, I think. Like they did individual, like there was a Michael Jackson episode, there's a Stevie Wonder episode, etc. But yeah, Madonna has 19 songs in the run of Glee, which is the most of any individual artist.
Wow.
The most of any
more than
group
Britney?
of artists is more than
They
Britney.
had 2 Britney episodes.
Yeah, somehow more than Britney. But and then obviously the number one group that they used for this was the Beatles. They had the most songs of any group on Glee.
I don't like the Beatles. That's what that face was.
I saw the face. I think our entire audience knew your music preference instantly. So with that all said, I think we've really looked at Glee as a whole. I think I know what everyone's answer is going to be, but I would love to hear. Do you think the show could be made today? And would you continue watching this show if given the opportunity?
I'm going to jump in and say yes. I think that we definitely could make this show today. I don't know how music copyright laws have changed since 2009, but I don't think there's as much of an incentive anymore for bands to be part of this. Like I know there was a lot of bands that like very blatantly didn't want to be part of this. I think as long as there is a benefit for the music industry, that the show could be made today.
And would you watch it, Rich?
I would. I would give it a couple
Yay,
more episodes,
there we
honestly.
go.
I know.
I didn't
Yeah,
think you would say that.
100%.
I know.
One, musicals just rule. We need more musicals all the time. I want to see just musicals everywhere on every channel I turn to on my television. I'm also thinking about the boost in sales that 2 80s artists got this past year from Stranger Things with Kate Bush and Metallica having huge resurgences. Darren definitely will show me some good Metallica deep cuts, absolutely. So yes, this show could be made today, and I think there's still incentive for artists to give their music and seeing some sort of boost in sales and boost in popularity. That being said, based on the episode I watched personally, I don't think I would keep going back to this well. It didn't really quite do it for me. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I think I'm a one and done when it comes to Glee.
Wow.
So Korama, what? I think I know your answer.
As someone who's actively rewatching this for the umpteenth time.
Based off of the pilot.
I think you don't know my answer. I think you don't know my answer. One, I actually do not think that we could still make this show today. I think the world has changed a lot, more than we give ourselves credit for. And I think part of the thing, it's a difficult thing to answer because I think Glee actually helped the world change so much. And so many of the things that we sort of take for granted, like queer characters on television are things, and there were obviously queer characters on television before Glee. I mean, the L word predates Glee. Queer as Folk predates Glee. 2 Queer as Folks predate Glee. I'm not saying they invented gay people. But
Robert, that's
of,
a soundbite for the episode.
We're just putting that on.
But in terms of like a show that was meant for families to watch at prime time, that took place in Middle America, that's unheard of, unparalleled. Like huge cultural shift, and they
Glee invented Ohio.
Glee invented Ohio. Yes, as far as I was
Ohio
concerned.
sounds so nice.
Yes.
I wish it were real.
But I do think that part of the reason I don't think you could make it today is just like there are the continued references to MySpace. Like Rachel says that she does videos on her MySpace, and she
big moment for cyberbullying.
And Mr. Shu has a line where he's like, all these kids feel invisible. That's why they all have MySpace pages. I think that kids don't feel invisible in the same ways anymore. And I think in terms of finding an audience for this in the current climate of media, I don't think it would capture people in the same way. So I don't think it would be made. I think maybe the pilot would get made. I don't know if it would get picked up to series, or if it did, if it would go on longer than 1 or 2 seasons.
For sure.
Would I keep watching it? The answer is technically yes, because I have seen all 6 seasons of Glee. So yes, but if I watch that show today, not having any sort of emotional relationship to it, I think yes. But if I watched it as you all have, for the first time, knowing sort of the behemoth that Glee became, I don't know that I would.
I'll finish this out in saying, I think that this show could absolutely be made today, specifically going into business school mind with the idea of like the TikTok and trying like TikTok trends and trying to pick up on like, just like Max referenced with Stranger Things, running up that hill is like blew up on TikTok in a matter of moments after that show came out and that episode came out. I could see a lot of people doing the dances and stuff like that on TikTok. I think that was actually a thing when Musical.ly was still a thing, where and Vine was still a thing. People were doing it on Vine. With that being said, as far as me watching this show, I would put this show in the category of I'm doing other things while this is on the background.
It's a folding sock show.
Yeah, it is.
I call
it
those
is
laundry shows. Yeah.
It's a laundry show. It's a cleaning the house show. It's something that you're listening to just like the radio, except it's not as good as the original song. You know, like you are purely using this as fluff or just background noise, and that's fine. Those exist. There's a reason that there are so many channels on TV, and there are so many shows that are just on TV that people have never heard of. So with that being said, as we are landing this plane, it has been quite a journey, but I would love to be able to...
It's been a cross-country flight.
It's been, a cross-country flight, but an enjoyable one and a smooth one.
The jet lag will set it tomorrow.
Yeah. I would like to know where to find all of you outside of this podcast. Korama, do you mind telling us where we can find you?
I wish not to be perceived, actually. No, I'm kidding. You can find me on all platforms as Korama Drama, KORAMADRAMA. That's Twitter, Instagram, and don't look at my TikTok. It's very embarrassing.
Everyone go at her on TikTok. You can find me on Instagram at damnthat'srich, and you can find Max and my comedy on TikTok. Follow us on TikTok after you follow Korama at Dadwagon Comedy.
You can find me on all things social media at Maxwell Singh.
And you can find me at RunJeffRun on Instagram and Twitter. You can find the TV Pilots License on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Pilots License. If you have a question about the show or for our next episode, you can email us at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com or give us a call at 213-290-1713. And make sure to watch out for our Instagram for a sneak preview of some of our upcoming episodes. With the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again sometime soon. And until then, stay great, stay safe, and have a great day.